Hi there, I'm Melissa. I'm a real estate agent with REMAX Advantage Plus, and if you're seeing this video, you probably already know that because we have decided that we are going to work together. Now, in order to do that, we do need to sign some forms and documents to establish a client-agent relationship. And so in this video, I am just going to go through what those forms include so that you have a good understanding of what I'm asking you to sign. Please note that this is a pre-recorded video, so the specifics of our agreement will not be included in this video, but we can definitely talk through those details more if you would like. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first document is just a disclosure. It's not a contract, but it is just letting you know what the legal types of agency are here in the state of Minnesota. If you're getting this video, you are probably not selling a property, but one of the types of agency is seller's broker. Another type of agency is a buyer's broker, which is most likely what we are entering into. And then a third type of agency is called dual agency. That is where either myself is representing both the buyer and the seller in a transaction, or myself and another agent from my brokerage are representing both sides of the transaction. Dual agency definitely has pros and cons. And if we are entering into a property or a contract on a property where dual agency would apply, we can definitely talk more about the pros and cons at that time. And then the fourth type of agency in Minnesota is called a facilitator. That is where there is no representation. So there's no advice, there's no guidance. There is just the transaction. And so a facilitator would just facilitate the transaction, fill out the forms, and make the recordings and do the logistical aspects of it without providing any advice or any representation. Moving on, we have some additional disclosures. This first one here is just letting you know that REMAX Advantage Plus is the brokerage. Number two is telling you about the seller's requirement to disclose everything that they know about the condition of the property. They will do that in either a seller's disclosure statement or an alternative disclosure statement. And before you submit an offer on any property, you will have an opportunity to review the disclosure statements that the sellers have provided. This section here is talking about material facts and permitted use. While a seller is going to disclose everything that they know, it is your duty to do as a buyer to do your due diligence, especially if the intended use of the property is something that is potentially different than it currently is being used for. The next section is home inspections, just letting you know that while a seller is going to disclose everything that they know, there is going to be a lot of things that they might not know, and so having a home inspection is definitely a good idea. You do need to pay for a home inspection upfront at the time of the inspection, and they are usually somewhere around $500 to $600 depending. There is also some information here about buyer warranty programs. These are definitely optional, and if you want more information about them, I can certainly provide it for you. It is just a little bit of added reassurance for a period of time after you purchase the home that the mechanicals and the plumbing and the electrical and the appliances are all going to stay in good working order. So if you are interested in a home warranty, let me know, but you are not required to, and the default is usually not to include it, but if you would like to include it, we can definitely talk more about that. This is just talking a little bit about bank-owned properties or foreclosures. This section talks about title insurance. Now, title insurance is also not required, but the default for title insurance is to include it in your closing costs. If you do not want title insurance, you can ask me to have the title company remove it, but I would highly recommend to keep title insurance as part of your closing costs to protect yourself against any potential problems with title later on. The referrals and other brokerages here, third-party vendors, a little information about that here. Affiliated business arrangement disclosure. There is another document that you will see next about the affiliated business arrangement between REMAX Advantage Plus and Trademark Title. This section is talking about, is more for sellers, allowing the marketing of their homes. This section talks about settling disputes. There is an option to settle disputes through something called arbitration. That is a mediation, not litigation, which means that if you choose to opt into arbitration, all four parties, the buyer, the seller, the buyer's agent, and the seller's agent, all have to agree to arbitration in order for it to occur, and it is in place of litigation, or you would not be able to sue somebody if they had wrongfully disclosed or hidden something about the property. We, as a brokerage at RE/MAX Advantage Plus, almost always decline arbitration because we believe it's the best interest of our clients. But if you really believe strongly in wanting arbitration, please let me know and we can talk a little bit more about it at that time. Then this section just talks about how RE/MAX Advantage Plus protects your privacy as a consumer. Moving on to the next document, this is the affiliated business arrangement. This is letting you know a little bit more information about the affiliated business between RE/MAX Advantage Plus and Trademark Title. Now, Trademark Title is my go-to title company. They do an amazing job, and I do like to work with them whenever possible. But if for some reason you do not want to use Trademark Title, we can definitely find a different title company to use instead. But this document here is just letting you know that there is an affiliation between those two companies. And the next and final document in this section here is talking about the buyer's representation contract. This is an exclusive contract to represent you as the buyer, which means that you are not currently under contract with another agent, and that during the duration of our contract, you will not work with other agents. You will allow me to exclusively represent you, and if you want to see a house or write an offer on a house, I will make sure that that happens for you. This section down here talks about the commission that is involved with that representation. Starting out with this first blank here, I do not usually charge a retainer fee. Now, in certain situations that might be different, but for the most part, I do not charge any upfront cost to a buyer. I only get paid when the property closes. So I only get paid my commission, and that only happens if we close the property. This section here is letting you know that there is a $6.99 broker and team commission. That is something that goes to my brokerage, not to me, and it is there to maintain the records of the transaction and to handle the recording of the transaction for the duration of time that we're required to keep the records for it. So that goes to my brokerage. And then this blank here will tell you what percent of commission I make. And so the percent of the sale price of the home, if you buy a home for $300,000, then my commission is a percentage of that $300,000 based on what is indicated here in the document. This section here will also say shall, and that means that if the seller is paying part or all of this percentage, then that will be less of a responsibility to you. I should have started by saying almost always the seller is paying most or all of the commission for a buyer's agent, but it is dependent on the property and the seller and their unique situation and their contract with their listing agent. And so every property is going to be slightly different, which means that I can't promise you that that's going to be the case up front, but I will tell you that there are additional disclosures that are part of your purchase agreement that you will know exactly how much of my commission is getting paid and by who before you put in any offer on any property. So this is just letting you know what my commission will be, and then later on you will know before you go into a contract on a property what that specific property situation is and who would be paying what part of that commission. Almost always the seller is paying all or almost all of that commission, and so this here is just establishing what that commission is. We like to be very transparent. You will get a lot of disclosures about my commission and what I am making throughout the process. This section here talks about the type of property that you are looking for. This one here, I will have this first box checked on line 69, and that just allows me to coordinate and conduct the closing. So I can communicate with your lender and with the title company and with the listing agent to make sure that all of the moving parts are coordinating together. And that takes the stress off of you and allows me to coordinate that on your behalf. This section here will most likely have line 99 checked instead of line 100, which means that if a situation arises that applies, dual agency applies to, that you would allow us to consider properties that fall under dual agency. That just opens up the amount of properties that you have available to you and what your options are. And then if and when the dual agency situation arises, we can definitely talk more about pros and cons at that point. And that is it. Those are all of the documents to establish the client-agent relationship and allow me to start working on your behalf. If you have any questions or you want to go through anything in more detail before signing, please let me know. It's really important to me that you feel comfortable with everything, every step of the way. And so if more explanation or answering questions helps you better understand or feel more comfortable, then I want to make sure that we make the time to do that. So please just let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we can go ahead and get ourselves signed off and start working on finding your next property.